there are a ton of awesome and wonderful villains in the game of Warframe. I would know, I've made videos on a ton of them, with some of the standouts in my personal opinion being Counselor Vahek, Ballas, Tyler Gore, and of course, my all-time personal favorite, Captain Vor. All these villains have their own unique motivations and beliefs that push them down the path of villainy, and some of these beliefs even make them out to be almost redeemable. Except Ballas! That guy is a complete and utter piece of shit. I mean, he almost erased the entire origin system just to make it to Tau because he thought it would be a paradise there. Even though he was essentially the king of the entire origin system, and it couldn't have been more of a paradise for him already. This fact alone kind of puts him into the contention for the dumbest villain in Warframe. The only issue is that he was extremely intelligent when it came to actually acting out his plans, and even defeated the Tenno. However, unluckily for him, they had massive plot armor and the Drifter came along. Now, you might be asking who the title of this video can possibly be referring to. Well, actually, he's probably in the thumbnail, so I'm sure you already know. Today, I am talking about Nef Anyo, the individual who I have decided might just be the dumbest villain, if not character, in all of Warframe. Which is kind of surprising because he's very charismatic and sounds intelligent when you actually communicate with him in the game. This isn't going to be my typical Warframe lore video. Today I want to focus on why I think Nef Anyo is so dumb, and a more comprehensive lore video about him will drop at some point in the future, probably. The four main cases of idiocy that I want to talk about today involve his actions in the most recent Warframe update, the Valis Undermine that dropped on October 15th of 2025, then also the Deadlock Protocol, where he may have made one of the biggest mistakes in Corpus history when it comes to ensuring his own success, and then the Glass Gambit, and then finally, we'll be talking about how he's dressed as proof that he's an idiot. About how he's dressed as proof that he's an idiot. Because holy shit, how can anyone in the world possibly think that this is good fashion? It should be on the screen right now. He is literally wearing like a coffin. It insinuates that he's dead, which hopefully he will be soon. It's absolutely insane that we haven't had an assassination mission directed at him yet. Especially with all the trouble he causes for the Tenno and Solaris alike. But I mean, holy shit guys, he looks so dumb. Like, what an idiot. Before talking about the decisions and missions that prove the incompetence of Nef Anyo, let's actually discuss who he is, his rise to power, and how he managed to get into the position that he's currently in. Nef Anyo is a member of the Corpus Board of Directors, the most powerful group of individuals in the entire Corpus faction. They make all of the most important decisions and decide how everything should be divvied up among each other, and among the Corpus who rank below them as well. While the Corpus is a largely independent faction, with lots of different actors making their own decisions independently, the most important decisions have to be made with the approval of the board, such as the decision to pull out from Mars and allow for the Grineer to take it, since the losses on the Corpus side were getting too costly. That happened a couple of years ago. Alad V started a conflict with the Grineer. He ultimately lost this conflict, which is why Mars is now under the control of the Grineer and not the Corpus. Now, someone doesn't just become a member of the board of directors. Well, I mean, you know, some do depending on who their father is. But a lot of the board, they'd have to actually work for the spot themselves. Actually, I have no clue if that's true. It probably isn't, to be honest. But in Nef Anyo's case, it's kind of true. I mean, he was still far wealthier than the average Corpus individual and in a much better spot, but he managed to earn a lot of his power himself through his own nefarious schemes. Nef Anyo gained his wealth and power originally by pretending to be a prophet sent from the void. So essentially, he was basically a mega church pastor who scams the poor people who were having their faith used against them, which is exactly what Nef Anyo did. He proclaimed that he was chosen by the void and that the citizens of the origin system needed to donate money to his cause so that he could give it to the void as an offering, and then in exchange, the void would bless them and bring them success.
Perfected Church of sowing this seed of $1,000 plus $235 and receiving the blessings to come to all that participated.
Now that's only $1,200.
Yes.
Y'all not listening to what I'm saying. If you have 1,000 plus 1,000.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna work on the other 800.
Well, that ain't what I asked you to do.
Unfortunately, Nef Anyo is actually an extremely charismatic individual, and even though he lacks intelligence, strength, willpower, empathy, and essentially everything else, he knows how to use his mouth better than anyone else.
Well, he talks well. His mouth has gotten him in every fight, big fight that he's had. And every time when it's time to present and perform, he's failed. On Saturday night, it's not going to change. What I do well, I come in with heart, I come in with determination, I come in with hard work and perseverance. When I get my hand raised, I'll know why. And so all the millions of fans that have had my back over the last 20 years.
Tito always says I'm using my mouth to get my opportunities. The only person I know that made money using their mouth is his ex-wife.
Many people began falling for this scam because of that, and this caused his net worth to skyrocket, because he obviously wasn't sending the donations into the void, he was pocketing them for himself. With this newfound wealth, he started purchasing hordes upon hordes of new Bursa attack robots, which caused his power in the system to rise considerably, especially among the Corpus faction. While Nintendo ultimately stopped Nef Anyo from getting too powerful by essentially scamming him by hijacking his funds, Nef Anyo elevated himself to be one of the biggest players in the solar system, and had a comfortable seat at the Corpus board of directors. Not to mention, he was continuing his grift as a Corpus megapastor that helped him gain clout, wealth, and loyal supporters. We already covered his personality a little bit in the last section, but since it's one of his most defining traits and the reason that he's gained so much power, I think that we should have a section dedicated to it as well. As you already know, Nef Anyo is extremely charismatic and very good at convincing people to follow him or to believe in his ideas and beliefs. It even gets a ton of people to place their trust in him despite his constant public betrayal of anyone who has ever trusted him with anything. This charisma is placed well with his complete unwillingness to actually do any work on his own whatsoever. His unwillingness to work hard actually goes against the core principles of what the Corpus originally stood for under Parvus Granum, which was that sloth and idleness were the greatest sins imaginable.
The more we toiled, the more impatient I grew. A fire raged inside me. I wanted more. I deserved more. But how? The whisper washed over me, louder now than before. Fortune despises the idle man. Stasis is death. Always move forward. And so, with only the whisper to guide me, I straightened my back, wiped the dirt from my hands, and left.
Also to point out, a lot of Corpus probably do fall under committing the sin of sloth, but most of them that we are personally familiar with don't really have this issue. If you compare Alad V and Nef Anyo, you can see the clear difference in their work ethic. Despite the evilness of Alad V, he is one of the hardest working motherfuckers and will put himself at risk to further his own profit, while Nef Anyo would never even lift a finger, even if it meant adding to his own wealth. So I think that's incredibly important to note that Nef Anyo is especially slothful even among the Corpus high brass. Besides for being incredibly slothful and especially charismatic, there isn't a whole lot that separates Nef Anyo from other high-ranking Corpus. He is greedy, ruthless, takes advantage of others, and incredibly wealthy. He also runs the planet of Venus and seems to have the final go-ahead and say when it comes to anything concerning the planet of Venus. Finally, Nef Anyo is particularly funny and quick-witted in my own opinion, but also falls under the charismatic trait, so I'm not going to go too deep into that, just so that you should listen whenever he's yapping, because sometimes he drops some gems, especially during the Valis Undermine bounty missions. His funny voice lines are the reward for putting up with Nightcap saying mucking for the 5 millionth time.
What is the holdup? I don't care what the problem is, fix it! Now!
The very first sign of Nef Anyo's lack of intelligence is the Glass Gambit quest, where Nef Anyo could have had one of the easiest wins of all time, but somehow managed to grab defeat from the jaws of victory. Just like the Cleveland Browns every single Sunday. The quest centers around the Mikona colony. I'm not going to say their names right. I'm sorry. It might be Misona colony, but basically I'll put how it's spelled up on the screen. You can say it however the fuck you want. But the Misona colony, who are a group of individuals who defected from the Corpus because of the constant pain that was caused by corporate greed. They just didn't want to be part of that vicious cycle anymore. Who can blame them? So they took an old Corpus freighter and flew it out to the orbit around Phobos, the planet that is completely covered in infestation and incredibly dangerous. There's two reasons that they likely decided to travel there. One, it's incredibly dangerous to even approach Phobos if you don't know exactly where you're going, since there's so many derelict ships and asteroids that are covered in infestation, and this would keep the Corpus from pursuing them. And the second reason is because somehow the Misono people found a way to create individuals who are completely immune to the effects of the infestation. It lowered the individuals' lifespans considerably, so they didn't do it to too many people. However, they did it so they could send people down to the surface of Phobos to harvest resources that would be impossible for anyone else to get. They would then trade these resources to Ergoglast in the parent sequence in order to make enough money to survive. There's a lot more information when it comes to Misono Colony, but for now this short little explanation is enough. Now let's get Nef Anyo involved. This is his video. Let's talk about how he screwed them over. He gets involved very abruptly and aggressively. He raids the Misono Colony and steals all of their resources, and then steals all of the children from the colony as well. Yes, Nef Anyo raided this colony, stole all of their resources, and then literally stole all of the children living in the colony. He stole the children because he believed they had some special ability to go on Phobos. Well, they did, but the colony had to activate it themselves through some weird ritual. They weren't just able to do that right out of the womb. Anyway, after this raid, Ergoglast of the parent sequence was very unhappy, since he was the one who dealt with this colony and made a ton of money working with him by buying and reselling the materials that they got from Phobos. Ergo offered a substantial ransom to Nef Anyo to release the prisoners. However, Nef Anyo denied this ransom, saying that they were worth more and the ransom wasn't near big enough. This is where the stupid comes in. Instead of accepting the ransom and just stealing everything that the colony owns, he decided to hold on to the kids, knowing it would cause massive issues with Ergoglast, one of the most powerful Corpus members, and then he's also the Corpus member with the closest relations to the Tenno and the Lotus. He could have just said yes to the ransom and made a ton of money, along with the money that he would have made from the items he sold. But he just couldn't do that. To try and get the kids back, Ergoglast asked for the help of the Tenno, which the Tenno happily responded to. Ergo wanted to compete with Nef Anyo in the Index, which is basically a massive Corpus gambling ring where two teams fight each other and they place bets on who's going to win. Nef Anyo accepted the offer, which was everything, the parent sequence had to offer for the children that Nef Anyo stole. Nef Anyo, worried he would lose, decided to rig the results and cheat, which resulted in him taking over the complete entirety of the parent sequence. However, after seeing the cheats, Ergo and the Lotus knew how to deactivate them. So that's what they did. After deactivating the cheats, the colony put up a super old and valuable relic, trying to entice Nef Anyo to accept this bet as well. Being the insanely greedy man he is, and thinking the game was still rigged, Nef Anyo accepted and put up the entire parent sequence again, all their businesses and everything, along with the children from the colony. Not being rigged this time, the Tenno easily won the Index for the parent sequence and got everything back. So basically, Nef Anyo didn't really gain anything from the raid and got embarrassed in front of the entire Corpus faction, hurting his standing on the board, when all he had to do from the start was accept the ransom money and sell off what he stole. He literally sold the easiest win of all time, but this was just the first sign of his stupidity. Trust me, these next two instances are where it gets really ugly.
To the Corpus board and my many supporters across the Origin system, everyone is asking, when will I, Nef Anyo, end this unprofitable, squabbling deadlock? People are saying, Nef Anyo's perfect for the big seat, a visionary, an exemplar, a protege of the great founder himself, Parvos Granum. Friends, our time is at hand.
Next quest I want to bring up for this video is the Deadlock Protocol. I think this is honestly the best example of the idiocy of Nef Anyo, or at least the example that bring him the most problems. Before we can talk about what happened throughout this quest, we have to discuss the Corpus Board of Directors. The Corpus Board was created by Parvos Granum all the way back when the Corpus first came into existence. This board was meant to better lead the Corpus into profit, with Parvos Granum at its helm. While each member had considerable power, Parvos Granum himself was the leader and essentially the dictator of the entire corpus. The final decision was always up to him. Eventually the board got tired of this and sabotaged Parvos Granum's void drive, sending him into some random spot in the void to make him disappear for centuries and hopefully kill him. After this happened, the corpus followed a majority vote policy. However, they still needed someone neutral to help run this system, so the board would elect a chairman, who was technically the highest ranking corpus, but was able to implement decisions on their own, still requiring that majority vote. Freudbeck, who is possibly dead, but also maybe not, is currently the chairman of the board, if he's not dead. Some other prominent board members are Alan V, Nef Anyo, Argo Glast, and well, that's actually it. There's 14 members, probably, we don't know that for sure, and we only actually know who 4 of them are, which kind of sucks, but hey, maybe we'll get more info on them in the future. The reason that this is important info though, is because the deadlock protocol is what happens when the board is a tied vote after several different attempts to vote on something. And that was the situation that Nef Anyo found himself in during this quest. The deadlock protocol involves looking for someone to replace the founder, Parvos Granum, and they would ultimately break the tiebreaker. It's unclear if this person that was chosen would assume total control over the board or just have their vote mean more. Either way, it would be an extremely advantageous situation to be in.
7 for, 7 against. Cast and recast 7 times. So, it is decided. The fleet has been retrofitted and redeployed to begin at once. New lanes, trawling for old things. By prophet and void, by the blessed handless founder, we hereby invoke the Deadlock Protocol.
Nef Anyo claimed that he was the genetic heir of Nef Anyo, which would likely lock in the spot of founder if it was proven true, especially since many already saw him as some sort of prophet because of his earlier escapades. It would just all add up really nicely for him. Hoping to find proof, Nef Anyo began searching for any trace of Parvos Granum, possibly a body to swab for DNA. Somehow, Nef Anyo had some knowledge on where Parvos Granum's body might be, and he began sacrificing Solaris workers to make void temporal jumps to try and reach the part of the void that Parvos Granum was in. Sacrificing the Solaris workers got the Tenno evolved, who stepped in to both help them and attempt to stop Nef Anyo from getting any more power, since he's one of the worst board members, and it would be catastrophic for him to be the most powerful one. Eventually, the Tenno and Nef Anyo end up getting to the Granum Void at the same time, and to everyone's surprise, they find a very much alive Parvos Granum. Parvos had been kept alive by Protea for centuries and had somehow been able to witness everything going on in the solar system while he was trapped in this void area. Parvos Granum actually acknowledges Nef Anyo as his son, and then immediately berates and insults him as he begins to attempt to take over Nef Anyo's ship and escape the Granum Void. Both the Tenno and Nef Anyo then try to stop Parvos Granum from leaving because he was so insanely powerful and could possibly threaten the entire system. However, despite their best attempts, they fail to actually stop him from leaving. This was Nef Anyo's biggest mistake, freeing Parvos Granum. Parvos immediately says he will begin a violent restructuring of the corpus, which will result in pretty much the entire board being removed from leadership and most likely killed, including Nef Anyo, if Parvos Granum has his way. Hell, not even just including Nef Anyo, especially Nef Anyo. Parvos Granum absolutely hates that dude and wants his head more than anything. This is another example of the complete failure that Nef Anyo and this decision to search out Parvos Granum was, and it could potentially lead to his downfall and possibly even the downfall of the entire Corpus faction. I have a video specifically about Parvos Granum that is nearly an hour long, so if you want a more in-depth description of this situation, go check it out. It's honestly one of my best videos in my own personal opinion. I think it's really great, and I think that if you enjoy this video, you would especially enjoy that one. But enough, shameless plugs here. Let's move on to the next section.
but at the cost of all that she was. Now she is nothing more than a specter of her former self. My beautiful Protea. That is why you have been invited here.
Father, permit me to show you all I have built in your name. Do Nef Anyo that honor.
My name. I have watched you. Monuments to narcissism, demanding others sweat in your stead, gorging upon that which you have not earned. Watched as you claimed for yourself my teachings of self-reliance, perverting them into a flaccid philosophy of sloth, of idleness. Is that you, my son?
No, that must be a different son.
You know nothing, falling short as you do of every ideal that I value. Your words, your efforts, are the model of inadequacy. I called you Nef Anyo, but I do not need you. I need them.
The last situation that I want to talk about involving the stupidity of Nef Anyo was released alongside the Valis Undermine just recently. Basically, the Valis Undermine was an update that introduced the deep mines to Venus, the planet that Nef Anyo had the tightest grip on and the planet that generates most of his wealth. These deep mines are absolutely filled to the brim with fungal colonies. Along with those colonies, lots of valuable resources, incredibly unique and interesting wildlife, and so many other things. Nef Anyo wanted to use these mines and extract the resources from them, as well as build Corpus labs down there, as well as build his own personal mansion down there, as well as build zoos filled with unique wildlife. Pretty much a bunch of random shit.
Corpus, it is my delight to announce the most wonderful addition to my Palace of Prosperity. A zoo! But not just any zoo, no, a zoo of playful chimeras! Hybrid creatures.
He has a lot of different ideas on what to do with the deep mines. The only thing stopping him is the tons of fungal colonies that are taking up all of the room, as well as spreading dangerous spores that make it hard to breathe in the undermines. This is why Nef Anyo began hiring Solaris workers to exterminate the mushroom colonies and make room for all of the different construction plans that he has for the deep mines. One of these workers he hired was Nightcap. Nightcap, while at first a hard-working member of the fungal extermination team, began to realize the importance of the mushrooms and eventually spread this information to others, including his co-workers. Now you might be wondering, what could these incredibly dangerous mushrooms provide that would cause a large amount of people to question whether they should be destroying it? And that is that they helped recycle the pollution and waste that was seeping into the dirt from the massive cooling towers on the surface of Venus. Venus, typically, is extremely hot, and it would be impossible for anything to ever live on the surface of Venus without these cooling towers. These cooling towers, while maybe working too well since the surface is so incredibly unforgiving as it is, are much better than an alternative of them not being there. Now we have to talk about why the mushrooms are important. Without them, to eat the waste of the cooling towers, the planet could potentially face dire consequences, including the destruction of the cooling towers, or the planet dying off and suffering extreme effects because of the massive amounts of pollution that would be building up if the mushrooms weren't able to consume the pollution from the cooling towers. Basically, Nef Anyo was attempting to cause the destruction of the planet that he gained the most value out of, just because he wanted a cool secret base below the surface of Venus. You can argue that he potentially doesn't know how important the mushrooms are to the survival of Venus, but I find that hard to believe with all the labs he has set up in the deep mines. He has to have the knowledge of everything going on there, because they're literally studying everything. They have like mushrooms in these labs, they're poking and prodding them, they have to know what they do. He has to know that there's pollution from the cooling towers, and if he somehow doesn't, that just makes him even dumber. There's a chance that he actually wants the surface of Venus to be impossible to inhabit, so it would be even harder to get to a secret base in the deep mines, but that would be really dumb too. Like, why would you destroy your greatest source of income for that? Also, he could still build the mansion in the deep mines without killing all of the mushrooms, but for some reason, he doesn't want to do that. He has to exterminate all of them so he can build like zoos and labs and like a whole underground city. Why the hell are you doing all that for, dude? That doesn't make sense. Just do a little bit and no one's going to complain that much at least. Maybe Noko, and you know, that's a dangerous little dude. But besides that, it wouldn't be that bad.
I swear it's filtering the waste from the towers. You take the fungi away and Venus goes all fire and brimstone.
With these 3 examples, and also the fact he dresses like an idiot, I know there wasn't a section dedicated to him looking dumb in his tombstone outfit. I know that was one of the major reasons below. I mean, I put in the beginning of the video, but like, how would I even make a section talking about how dumb he looks? I already talked about how dumb he looks. You guys know how dumb he looks. He looks dumb coffin setup. Give him a cooler fit, DE. Make him look cooler. He's funny and charismatic. Give him a little bit something going on here because he looks like a total asshole. Okay? He looks like an art project gone wrong. But anyway, with the 3 examples, 4 if you include his outfit, I truly believe that Nef Anyo is the dumbest major villain in Warframe, or the dumbest villain that presents himself as someone intelligent. Obviously, there's some questionable Grineer villains in this game, but I'm not going to count them because their brains are like literally rotting and dying because of the genetic like infections. Like, I'm not judging like Lieutenant Let Krell to the same level that I'm fucking judging you know, Nef Anyo. They're clearly 2 different weight classes of brain activity going on there. I'm not judging the Grustrag 3 to the same level I'm judging Nef Anyo. Like, that's not a fair comparison, guys, okay? We're judging Nef Anyo based on how smart he portrays himself compared to what he actually does. That's what we're judging on here today. Because obviously there's some dumb villains in the game that are just literally have like low IQs. It's not fair to make fun of them, guys. It's not fair, okay? They're decaying. It's not their fault. They're almost all Grineer. There's not a whole lot of dumb Corpus villains. They're typically smarter. Because they're not decaying. Anyway, let me know if you agree or disagree in the comments. And let me know some other dumb things that Nef Anyo may have done that I missed. And on top of that, let me know if you think if there's any villains that are dumber than Nef Anyo out there. You know, say your favorite Grineer villain that's dumb. Because the chances are they are dumber than Nef Anyo. But that's not what I was going for here today, okay? Okay? I hope you understand. I hope you do. But anyway, this video was originally meant to just be like a short, non-scripted video where I made fun of Nef Anyo for his stupidity in the most recent update. But after I looked into it more and more, I was like, wow, this guy makes a lot of really, really bad decisions, which led to me making a whole 20-page script for this video. And making a much larger production than it was originally meant to be. Also by 20 pages, I mean, it is size 17 font, and it is double spaced. So, you know, we throw that in there, it's not as impressive. But shut the hell up, okay? Shut up. I've been trying to put out 3 videos a week, and honestly, it's a lot of fucking work. I have other stuff going on in my life. You know, I have responsibilities and school and all that kind of stuff. It's a lot of work to be fucking doing this too. I hope you guys appreciate that. I intended to only release 1 scripted video a week, but the last 4 videos, 5 if you include this one, all had scripts written for them. Don't judge how the scripts are. I wrote this script at fucking like 4 a.m. the morning after playing an all-nighter, guys. There were some issues, but we moved past them, you know. I yap over them. Basically, I'm saying all this because I'm trying to farm support and guilt trip you guys into subscribing because I've been working so hard on this channel. Anyway, pathetic manipulation and tactics for support aside, thank you all so much for watching this far into the video. I really, really appreciate it. It actually means a ton to make it this far. And on top of that, a huge and massive shout out to Jay and SignUpKing5000, my 2 members who help this channel keep going, provide so much support to me. Right now, the only perk for becoming a member is getting early access to videos, usually around a day before they come out. But as more members join, there will probably be more benefits. But as of right now, if you become a member, you're basically just supporting me and helping me make more videos on this channel and helping me buy better things for my setup. I kind of want to work towards buying a better editing system right now because I'm just using a free editor and it's, you know, it's doing what it needs to do, but it's not great. But yeah, I thank you all so much for the support. Just watching the video means a ton. Thank you to everyone. Hope you all enjoyed the video. Like and subscribe if you did. Stay blessed, stay happy, and most importantly, stay safe out there.